let me call it, okay. So for 12,000 freshmen, okay, about materialistic attitude. So, so basically at the beginning, when they finish their college, they just ask them how, they just have assessment on how materialistic they are. So that means if you like to buy more brand name products, you will classify as more materialistic, while if you're not, then it's vice versa, okay? So what he found is that people who are more materialistic, their life satisfaction versus the non-materialistic 2 decades later will be much lower. All right. Of course, they need to control a lot of different factors in this study, but this is the findings, actually, the core finding out of his study. So that means even though you can acquire or you earn, you have a lot of good stuff around you, it doesn't guarantee, I would say, you'll be happier. All right. So through the studies, you can tell. So then why don't these items make you happier? Okay. So why I ask you all this question is I want to guide you later on to figure out actually how can we improve our well-being at work. Although at the middle, I'm going to share with you the study that I did for Association for Project Management a few years ago to benchmark the well-being level of project professional. So that's why I asked you all this question ahead of time to give you a bit of brainstorming or try to put your stereotype thinking around how can we be better in terms of well-being. Not the traditional way of thinking, not because of money, not because of the good stuff, okay? So then why don't those stuff make a difference? So there are another field argument there. People will say, oh, because why people, even they earn more or they have more good stuff, they're not happier? It's generically determined, okay? So that's why it won't change. If you are a pessimistic person, even though you have good stuff, it's the same. It will stay the same. It won't change your happiness or your well-being level. And then another argument is, even though you have good stuff, it may mess up in the process. Okay, so that's the reason why those people won't your own destiny, or you think the luck have a role to play into it. So even though you get the good stuff, it doesn't guarantee you have the good well-being or happiness level. All right, so those are the two very typical arguments that people usually have. So another scientist actually this time, he go ahead to investigate how genetics or circumstances really play a role into what we believe happiness, okay? So the study actually is focused on using the identical twin and then let them explore different circumstances and see how will that well-being level being different, okay? So the reason why we use identical twins usually in experiment is that we want to have a control environment so that we are sure the differences actually generated from your experiment is really purely from the factor that you're studying, but not from the other factors that could co-founding the effect, okay? So based on the results, here is the finding, how much genetic play a role into it. So cannot deny your genetic set point is around 50% contributing to your own, serve as the set point of your well-being level. But there are another 10% actually contribute to what happened around you, all right? And then the balance 40% actually is not the genetic, it's not the environment. It depends on your own action and own thoughts around the situation, okay? So just to give you a background on what popularly you believe will affect well-being as the starting point. So he gave a very powerful quote, I think. So our intention, our effort and activities have a very powerful effect on our own happiness, above the effect that just the set point, okay? I won't say it's above, I would say there's a chance to change the situation, even if your set point is not high, all right? Okay, so this is about how we define well-being. Is a very messy world, as I show it to you in academia. and as well as some of the common myths we believe what can improve our well-being. So next, I want to share with you is the well-being study that I did for APM, which stands for Association for Project Management. So this is a professional organization for project professionals mainly in Europe. They're the biggest in Europe. And some of you may have heard about another organization called PMI, Project Management Institute, but that institute is in the US, okay? So this study actually is sponsored by APM because my focus actually is in Europe at the moment. Okay, so this study actually, I'm curious of because there's no study at that time, try to benchmarking the well-being level of project professionals. So I try to collect samples from a European country, from Asia, and as well as Africa, in order to understand the situation where we are at the moment. Because we all know project professional or project managers or people who are working in a project environment, sometimes it's quite challenging, given that we always confined or constrained by the triple constraint, like the cost. We always need to stay within the cost, within the scope, and then also within the time. So this is not an easy environment. So that's triggered me want to study this particular topic to see what exactly where we are before we talk about how we can improve the situation. So this is the finding out from the study. So in this model, actually, I'm studying, of course, the resilience level. Let's forget about it at the moment. But what I focus on is this 6 essential, okay? So 6 essential actually are the 6 most contributed factor that will affect people's well-being level. So I go out and evaluate based on the data to evaluate how good they are in those different aspects. So you can see there are different colors, okay, in this model. So red color means something that is not in a good shape, they're at risk. Just imagine it's a traffic light, okay? So red means you should stop, it's in a dangerous zone. While amber is not as dangerous as the red, okay, but it's also not good. While the green one means you're in a safe threshold. So as I said, the 6 essential actually are the 6 contributing factors that will affect your well-being. So what I'm looking at, the first factor is resources and communication, whether people have the resources to do their job, whether the communication in the work is effective to assist the work. Control is another factor that I was looking at. So control means whether you feel you understand what is expecting, okay? You believe you have control over how you schedule the work, how you can perform the task. Balanced workload, I think by itself is quite straightforward. Whether you feel your work life and your family life or your social life is in a balanced situation. Job security and change is another factor. So whether you feel your job, you won't, just like when we talk about job security, if you think the job is secure, then you won't lose your job, okay? For example, you won't expect the job will lose within 3 to 6 months, okay? And you won't expect your job is going to be eliminated, okay, in a short period of time. Then the last 2 factors that I'm looking at is work relationships. Then that involve actually both the manager, the line manager, above the employee, as well as their peers, whether they maintain a good or a not very good work relationship. Last condition that is talking about the work environment, the physical environment, whether this is a decent environment to work with, which provide sufficient equipment, okay, for example, to perform the job. So those are the 6 factors actually I'm looking at. So you can see they're not very good, they're not in a good shape. They are all in red and yellow, okay? Which I don't think is surprising because we all know this is a quite stressful job, all right? It just basically prove, okay, even though we did not do the study before, we kind of expect the result is like this. I don't think it's very surprising. But what surprised me actually is the middle part and the last final part of the model. So when we look at the well-being, actually we look at 2 different dimensions. We look at the health aspect, of the well-being, and then as well as the psychological aspect of well-being. So in terms of health, what I feel is quite interested is, although it's quite stressful, okay, but the stress actually causing on people's physical health is not that bad, okay? But I would say because the sample, let me unmute this dude, because of the sample for this particular study is quite young, okay? Not a lot of people is the latest stage of their career. So probably that's the reason why it explains, although it's quite stressful, those six essential factors reflecting is not in a good shape, but it doesn't affect that much in their physical health. Yet it causes a lot of stress on, or a lot of problem on the psychological side, all right? And then when we look at the psychological well-being, people, this group of people, I would say, they are still quite positive, although the situation is not good. But at the same time, they are struggling to find a sense of purpose for the work. So how to explain this situation is that, you know, even though the situation is not very good, it depends on your personal ability as well. Some people are more positive, some people are more negative, okay? So if you are, just remember the study I'm talking about, the set point or the genetic situation. Some people are, the set point is much higher, okay? Even though the difficulty is the same, some people are more resilient to the situation, all right? So for this particular study, we found probably as a PM or as a project professional, you need to have those elements. You know, it's very difficult. You keep being positive, although the work environment is quite challenging. That would be the explanation I would give it here. And then the final bit of the model, we also look at how that will affect work engagement, as well as the commitment, how they perceive the organization committed to the employee, and the commitment of the employee to the organization, all right? So you will see actually the stuff in red is because of the situation. You see the six essential is not in a good level. The commitment of people to the organization is also at risk, okay? So that is the results of this particular study. So different group of people could have a different results, I would say, but this is just the sample, that based on the samples that we draw for this particular study. So I can share the slide later on, but I don't think I need to go through all the details with you around in each of the elements, but I just want to highlight some of the elements for your reference. So remember, I talk about the six essentials. So those, okay, just go back. So when we look at element one, okay, look at the resources and communication contributing factor to the well-being, particularly is a bit alarming for feedback on performance, and people are not getting enough training to do their job. So this kind of training could be related to project management, because the question actually set out in that way. Okay, so this is when we look at the second factor, control. So specifically, the stuff that catch our attention is people believe the organization actually is not taking staff's idea or suggestion about the job into account. Okay, so no matter what you say, they are not really changing the practice, for example. So this is the challenge they are facing. So work-life balance actually is another element. So we look at, first of all, the element one is really called a work-life balance. So people need to travel excessive hours or work in unsocial hours. Those are the concerning bit. I'm not sure whether you encounter the same situation now. So this is another aspect we're looking at, a work-life balance. People think the technology is overloaded. Just do a self-reflection. After work, anybody will get the WhatsApp message from your colleagues or any kind of social media. They will just ask you questions, okay? Or you need to still work on the leftover work using those kind of social media, All right. Even myself, I sometimes do that. Okay. So that could cause you to have the technology overload. So job security. So they believe that the job performance is not sufficient, and then their fear of the skill is being redundant. So when we look at the work relationship, actually, this is one of the worst factor. Not really in a good shape. You can see basically all the questions, except for one question, are all in red. So they think the boss is kind of difficult to deal with. The peers is not very supportive, etc., etc. Job condition is relatively a bit better, but still people are complaining to dealing with very difficult client. I think this is not anything new to us working in construction sector. We know actually our client is the king, and at the same time, they're kind of demanding. They often try to change the scope. They don't want to give you more time, more budget, but they want you to work for extra miles. So that is something not very surprising, but that is the phenomenon actually in the sector or in the project professionals. Okay, so this is the study. If you're interested in it, feel free to download it. It's already publicized through the APM website. So let me move on to the third part of today's guest lecture. Okay, I saw there's a question. Oh, that is a very good comment. We rarely achieve work-life balance. Okay. I think this is a very fair comment, to be honest. But I think it also depends on how you believe the boundary of your work and your own life. Okay. Some people may have just like academics. Okay. Sometimes I feel our boundaries kind of blur. Okay. Because many of my colleagues actually doing research is their interest. So although they work long hours, probably they feel fine. Okay. I think the most important thing is whether you personally, you think you are kind of fed up, you're kind of entering in a burnout condition. I think that is a very strong indicator, because everybody, or even though you give the same amount of work, your capability or your own ability to handle is different. Okay. So there's no clear answer or a clear, easy way to achieve the work-life balance. But anyway, I would try to introduce you two aspects, not perfectly solve the problem, but give you some hints, how can we make our life slightly better, okay? So I'm going to talk about two particular elements, okay? So one is called signature strength, while the other element is called resilience. Because these two elements actually is changeable, first of all. And then with practice, you can make use of it to, no matter to deal with the work-life balance, unbalanced situation, or to improve your own well-being. So let me dive into it. So when we talk about signature strength, so what factors should we want in our job? Okay, this is a question. So factor one, I would like to talk about the signature strength. Okay, so signature strength, actually, this is just a link that you can use later on to evaluate your own strength. So signature, just like personally, I will use my right hand to sign on anything or to write anything, okay, to make a signature, okay? So that means right hand is my strength, right? My key strength. It doesn't mean I cannot use my left hand, but it's just not my strength, okay? So in a nutshell, signature strength means your core strength in your life, okay, or at work, okay? So some people, even though nobody tells you what your strengths are, you may realize it, okay? But scholars are trying to basically establish what kind of people, what kind of strength actually virtually cutting across culture people have, okay? So this is just one of the school of thought, okay, coming out from the scholar, and then they set up basically assessment for free, okay? You can go online and then to basically try to investigate your own strength if you're interested in it or you're not quite sure actually what they are. So those are the 24 signature strength of character strength that scholars identify if you use the link that I just shared with you early on. But I highly encourage you actually to play around it. You may be surprised actually some of the strength that you probably don't realize. And then through the assessment, you have a new insights into yourself. Okay. And I'm going to link it up why this could help the situation. So Mark Seligman, actually, he is the father of positive psychology. So positive psychology, because in the past, when we talk about psychology, we often just think about people getting depression, anxiety, or mental disorder. Okay. So Seligman, in early 2000s, so around 20 plus years ago, he, of course, he's a psychologist. And then he just proposed, why don't we look at the positive side of human being? What makes people flourish or achieve better than their peers? So from a very negative angle in psychology, it shifts to be a more positive angle to look at what are the things actually we are doing well and can we replicate those characteristics so that we can improve ourselves or improve our well-being. So he's tried to study, actually he studied, not tried to study, he studied how about if people use one of the top strengths that actually I mentioned before in a new way and on an everyday basis for a week. How will that affect people's satisfaction or well-being? So the study actually shows, so the first study, he focused on the happiness level, okay? So just imagine you can practice your own strength in a slightly different way on an everyday basis for a week. So afterwards, they just come back. So first of all, you need to do a benchmark, and then afterwards, they will come back to measure your happiness level. And then the pre-test level basically is the benchmarking of two groups of people. So one group of people, they do nothing. Okay, the blue bar actually are the people who are doing nothing. All right, as a starting point. Okay. But their happiness level at the beginning, because they just draw the sample of the target. So they have a relatively higher happiness level than the people who use the signature strength, okay? Later on, not now, okay, later on in the study. So at the beginning, before they do anything, they do a pre-test first, okay? So when people carry on, these two groups of people, one group, the black bar people, okay, they practice their signature strength, while the blue one, they're doing nothing. So throughout the journey, 1 month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, you will see, interestingly, it reverses the situation, okay? So people are getting happy if they try to practice the signature strength on a daily basis in a slightly different way, all right? So this is one of the angles to look at it. And then the other angle is look at their depression symptoms, okay? So you will see the same interesting situation if they do that. Actually, their depression symptoms for the black bar, people who practice the signature strength, is much lower than the one who the one who doing nothing, okay? So what he want to highlight is actually, if at work you can use your signature strength, it would improve your happiness and decrease your depression symptoms. So just share with you, okay, personally, what are my top 5 signature strength, okay? And then how I just make an example, how I use it, how I try to use it and link it with my job, okay? So achiever, for example, achiever means I like to initiate something new all the times, okay? Although it all often set myself up, okay? So that's the reason why, although I worked for the industry for 10 years and eventually I decided to go back to academia because I think I have the autonomy to choose what I like to do. I can initiate the research projects that I like, okay, instead of working in the industry. Basically, I need to listen to my boss or just the needs of the company to do the projects that they need, okay? So that is how I try to tie up with my work. And another example is, wow, the 5th elements that I have, wow, that means I really like to connect people together to work on something that is meaningful. All right. So that also enabled me actually, because I have this, I besides my academic role as an associate professor in project management, I also carry faculty role looking after internationalization activities for the university in ASEAN, Japan, and Korea. That is the way how I try to link my strength with my work. Okay, so that is signature strength. So let me see how much time. Okay, it's fine. So the other element that probably you can consider is resilience, okay? Because resilience level is something that you can definitely change, all right? So resilience means your own ability to bounce back from negative emotional experience, okay? So for example, imagine if you have a very difficult, challenging situation, your project is going to overrun, let's say. You can forecast based on the data, your project is going to overrun. Of course, you don't feel happy. You will feel quite anxious, okay? But whether you can bounce back from this negative emotion into the mode that look for solution and move on, okay? If you're able to do that, you are more resilient, obviously. Okay, so that is what, in a layman term, how can we understand the meaning of resilience? And then I just want to share with you very quickly 3 strategies that could help you to improve your own resilience level. So first strategies is always ask yourself, for example, going back to the project situation, you know, your project probably is going to overrun. And then you just give yourself a comment, oh, how come all the projects on hand are so difficult? How come all my projects is so difficult? I'm the only person actually is handling that this kind of projects, okay, for example. Then you have this comment to yourself. Then at the same time, you should challenge your own thought by using this sentence. This is not true because, okay, give some evidence. Oh, actually, I have 5 projects. Only 2 projects is running in this situation. The other 3 actually is still good, okay? So that is another way to not enlarging the problems that you have. Give yourself some room, okay, or leeway to think about that maybe I'm exaggerating the situation. That is not true based on the data or based on my track record, okay? Or maybe I can turn over it. This is not the first time I handle this challenging situation. I also handled it last year, okay? I by doing A, B, C, D, E, actually, I still get a chance to turn around the situation, all right? So that is to work around your mindset a little bit. So second strategy is to reframe the way that you perceive the situation, all right? Go back to that challenge that I give an example. Yes, this is a very difficult situation. The project is going to overrun, all right? But can you reframe it in a slightly positive way? The easiest way to think about this is a difficult situation, but at the same time, this is an opportunity for you to test something new or to push something new in order to work around this overtime situation, okay? So for example, maybe this is a chance, actually, I can talk to the senior management team, although you talk about a long time ago, you want to hire a specialist for a particular task which can speed up the delivery of the project, but they deny and reject all the times. But because of this situation, maybe you can try to just convince them this is probably a good timing to do so. All right. So reframing is another way to build your own resilience. So a sentence, actually, I try to list out here is a more helpful way to see this situation or a better way to look at the problem that in front of me could be, okay? So just hopefully this will be kind of helpful for you to reroute your mindset. So last but not least, of course, we need to make a contingency plan, okay? If X happened, then probably I will do Y. I think this is quite straightforward. As a project professional or as a professional, actually, regardless your field, you always need to have a buffer. You try to think about, predict certain situation, how you can turn around the situation so that adverse situation come one day, you won't be that panic because mentally you are prepared for that. All right, so that is the two elements that I like to share with you today in order to improve your own well-being level. And given that we know well-being is important to us, while the construction sector or the work as a project professional is quite challenging. As what we know, okay, no matter with the APM study or without the APM study, you work in the sector for a while or a long time already. We all know this is not an easy sector. I mean, the construction sector is not an easy sector to be in. All right, so I think that's it for my sharing today. So it's now just open up to you if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Clara, for gracing us with your presence. Please proceed with your insightful lecture. So maybe next time I can invite you to give a lecture with the architecture student in UiTM later. I think it's
they all need this, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think it has a relationship with the workplace design also, with the how the students can design according to the psychological aspects, especially on the well-being perspective. Because mostly most of the architecture students, when I'm referring to the architecture students, sometimes they are lacking in terms of that. They are more focusing on the aesthetic value compared to the elements that you mentioned just now. Okay, so from the floor, is there any question that you like to ask, Dr. Clara?
Probably their well-being level is too good in a dark room, especially. Just curious, are you guys all, I think they're all in construction. None of them are architect, or is a mixture of architect and civil engineer, project professionals? What's the profile?
I'm not sure. I think most of them are
students?
actually different background, but most of the Dr. Lina students are in the engineering department. So I'm not sure whether some of them are involved in the architecture deviations, but maybe some of them are from the construction field. Okay, Doctor, actually, I'm quite interesting to know more about the well-being that you just mentioned just now, because actually we have we are actually struggling to have that well-being perspective in work-life balance, right? So how does promoting the work-life balance and establishing boundaries contribute to the safety and well-being of the employees?
Actually, I think, of course, workload is still a main concern. Okay. No matter how good our resilience are, or how much signature strength we are using, if you are dumping significant amount of work which employee cannot handle, that the situation won't be balanced at all. So I think if in an organization level, they always need to look after whether the workload level is, I mean, even in university, I'm not sure in UiTM, for us, we have quite a transparent workload model. So everybody knows what we are working on, and then what that means in terms of hours. So that is one of the dimensions people are trying to use, more transparent and then more reasonable in terms of the workload. And then the other thing is whether they pair up, not in this study, but a lot of study is showing why people end up in burnout situation or they leave the organization. 85% guess because of what? Just guess. What reason contribute them to leave the company?
The toxic environment.
Very good guess. Related to that. Actually, it's because of the line manager. So what that implies to us is if you get a chance or get the privilege to become a line manager, no matter a team or I don't know, in a not just a team, probably is in a department level, okay? Your role on how to manage people's well-being, how you, for example, the 6 factors that I was studying, whether resources to do their job, whether you enable them to have the autonomy to choose how they work out the job as long as they can deliver the target, whether you pair up, or at least they have a very supportive management peer support, okay, in order, for example, like newcomer, okay, do you pair them up with guide them along the journey, okay, so on and so forth, okay, all are very important to keep the talents actually still willing to stay within the company, okay. People are not stupid. If you are not investing in me, then why I need to stay here, okay. There are so many competitors outside as well. Yeah, so I think those six contributing factors that I used in the APM study could be kind of a good indicator. Once you become a line manager, something that you can constantly bear in mind if you care about your employee, if you want them to perform well.
Yeah, and most of the comments said that mostly reason because of the boss. Yeah, so the leadership is very important.
Yeah. So I always like to talk with professionals, you see. They are, if I ask students, they always say, oh, just because the pay is too low. That's why I
just to cover up the main things, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely it's the boss, okay? Yeah. So yeah, I hope all of you, I guess some of you are already line manager of somebody already. So just bear in mind your influence is very significant. Yeah. Then yeah, if you enable them, they will also enable you. I think that is a very important concept.
Yeah, sometimes our communication skills is very important. Sometimes you don't want to say something that might hurt them. Yeah. Okay, is there any questions from?
Is there any question? Otherwise, we start to chit chatting. Okay?
Yeah. Just two of us chit chat here.
Yeah, we can take it offline.
Okay, I think there's one question from Zahiri. Okay. Dr. Clara, based on your experience, how do you strategize your work and keep motivated all the time?
That's why I introduced you to the signature strength. Okay. I also have a lot of personal challenges. Okay. But I really cautiously, when I do my job, first of all, I ask why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is it meaningful? Is it really matters, not just to myself, but to others? Okay. And then of course, as I said, I also pair up with my strength to choose. Academia is slightly different, okay? We still have some room to choose the stuff that we do. But when I work in corporate, because I spent 10 years actually working in manufacturing and retail. At that time, I don't have much choice. If they ask me to do something, I need to do something. But I still unintentionally at that time, because I don't know positive psychology, I don't know the signature strength, but still I will try my best to contribute, because, for example, if I'm very good at talking, presentation, okay. So even though they don't ask me to do the presentation, okay, actually, okay, I can do it, something like this, okay. In order to make myself feel a bit lighter and happier, so that when I come across the challenges, I have enough saving to deal with the challenges that I was facing. I'm not sure whether I answer your question, but I highly recommend you to give some thoughts into how to use your strength in your work, even for small tasks. Okay, even you can only link it up to one particular task, but on a daily basis, you can see the difference. Okay, I would like to hear from you later on, if you practice it, how will that slightly make a difference on a daily basis for your own life?
Thank you so much, Dr. Clara. So I think we already almost end the sessions today.
We need to take a picture.
Yeah. Yes. That's why I want to ask please, all the students, please open your camera. I think we have to take memorable picture with Dr. Clara, so that make sure you all good, handsome, beautiful attire.
Can you touch up on my wrinkles or dark circles?
Hopefully I can do it with filter. No lah, you still look young and beautiful. How old are you now?
Very old, at least older than you.
Hopefully one day I can be someone like you, okay? So proud to be. I'm so grateful. We actually are very grateful to have you here, right? So
yeah, actually, thanks for joining. People are driving. Oh, I hope you're not driving. I hope you just sit next to the driver. Health and safety, okay? So yeah, we need to take it, right?
okay, wait. Okay. Mujadillah, are you going to open your camera? Shafiq, Farah, Zakiri. Okay, so can we start count, all right? 1, 2.
Already in class.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Big smile. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clara. So maybe I can email you later for architecture students lecture later.
Okay, no problem at all. All right. Okay. Nice to meet you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Clara.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.